Hi, everybody. We are live. It's been a while. Just give it a second for anyone to hop in. I've just got their notifications that we are live now. I can't think how long it's been since we've done one of our live sessions, but we are very happy to be back. And I know that you're all going to enjoy our fabulous guest today on our interview with WiseOceans. So I can see a few people hopping on. So I'm just going to give it a second. I hope everyone is doing okay and has come out the other end of where we've been and where we might be going-ish. I know it's still a little gray area at the moment, but people are back getting in the ocean, going diving, going snorkeling. So that's a good thing, right? So if you haven't been to one of these before, this is our live interview with WiseOceans. We have 100, I think we counted them up recently, 180 text interviews on our website. And if you haven't read any of those, you should head over after this, of course, you should head over and check those out. A fantastic resource for anyone looking to get a career in marine biology, marine conservation. But to complement that, we also have our live sessions here on Facebook. And today we are really happy to welcome Dr. Dr Jardot, who is from France, but currently in sunny Florida. I'm assuming it's sunny there. It kind of looks sunny through the window there. I shall be feeding her lots of questions designed to help you aspiring or perhaps early career marine biologists who are looking to find their way, get inspiration, find out how other people did it, look at some of the options we have. Catherine works for Elemental Solutions. This is an organization looking for nature-based solutions to provide resilience for climate change in small island nations. And like us, she has that positivity. It's all about finding the solutions. Yes, we can be doom and gloomy. There's plenty to be doom and gloomy about, but does that really get us anywhere? So Catherine is very much in the Wise Ocean vibe of we want to be positive, we want to find solutions. So welcome to you, Catherine. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Charlotte. Thank you for this great introduction.
You're very welcome. I thought rather than me go on about you, it might be easier for you to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, what you currently do, and maybe the sort of route that you've got to take you there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for me, I feel that the ocean is really running in my veins. I mean, diving shaped who I am. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's really part of my personality today, you know. Even though I was born not in France, but in Belgium, I speak French, but I was born in Belgium, in Brussels, which is a landlocked city. I started diving when I was about 8 years old. And every Saturday night, I would go to a local pool, the Poseidon, and I would learn the skills to become a diver. Perfect. And I did that for about 15 years. Every single Saturday night, I would go to the pool and learn how to become a diver. And because diving in the North Sea is not that exciting, you know, my diving club would go every year. We would go travel around the world and dive in absolutely amazing places. So from a very young age, I had the opportunity to go diving in Egypt and Oman and Jordan and Yugoslavia, you know, when it still existed, you know, and I really discovered the world through the eye of diving. It was really my passion. You know, I dove every opportunity I had. I spent all my pocket money, you know, on dive related things. Every Christmas, every birthday, I would ask for either, you know, dive gear or money towards a dive trip. I was mesmerized by the ocean, you know, it was all I could think about. So diving was really my meditation practice. It was my refuge. It was my home. So when I turned 16, I actually became a dive instructor for children.
At 16?
At 16. Yeah. And this is one of my best memory of all times. I remember so vividly the very first time I led an open ocean dive with a 7-year-old boy in the Red Sea. And we were holding hands, because back in the days, you wouldn't have BCDs the size for children. So you would have to learn to dive, and create your buoyancy just with your lungs, but that makes you a very good diver, right?
Gosh,
so you would hold the kids by the hand, and every time a little fish would pass by, that kid would squeeze my hand. I was like, what's going on? What's going on? It was the first time I was leading a dive. It's just like, what's going on? And the kid was like, fish. Like, yeah, it's a small black fish. What's happening here? the kid was just like, you could see his eyes in the mask, like being completely amazed by what he was doing. And I knew right then, right there, that I wanted to do something related to the ocean for the rest of my life. It was really a defining moment in my life.
Fantastic. It's great that you already had that passion, but to get that spur on to like, okay, this is really where I'm going is great. Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely. So what happened next?
So when I finished high school, should I say the year?
No,
that would date myself. But anyway, not too long ago, a few years back, right?
Of course.
Back then, there was no direct track to become a marine biologist in Belgium. So I first had to do a master in any of the hard science, physics, chemistry, math, biology. So I did at first a master in biology. And then after that, I had access to the masters in oceanography. So I did that, first a master in biology, then a master in oceanography.
Wow.
And then I wasn't really thinking about doing anything else, but I finished first of my class for the master in oceanography. So the professor really encouraged me to continue my academic career, which I did. And I decided to do a PhD. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. Don't tell anyone, and don't put it on the internet or anything, right? The way I picked the topic for my PhD was actually the only PhD that would allow me to spend most of my time diving. So
I think that's pretty smart.
I study ethology, which is fish behavior. So I spent all my time for my PhD diving and looking at fishes. And I absolutely loved it. That's exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Why would you pick something that would mean you're in a basement looking down a microscope, right? Very smart. A really good idea. So a lot of people watching will be perhaps have done a degree or looking to do a degree, or maybe even have done a master's or more. At the end of that, did you kind of know where you were going, what you wanted to do, or did you kind of still have some crossroads to navigate?
I knew what I wanted to do, but it was very difficult because I did my PhD in France and I wanted to work in the Caribbean. So it's really, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's really difficult to get a job in an area where you don't have any experience. I didn't study that. I never had any job there. So I couldn't land a job. So what I did is that I decided to start a job that I didn't like, but that would let me have a lot of free time. I could take as many unpaid vacation as I wanted to. So every time I had the opportunity, I went out in the Caribbean and volunteer on different projects. I volunteered to do reef restoration, mangrove restoration, and reef surveys, and gain all those skills in that area that I wanted to work in. And I know it can be very frustrating, right? I had 2 masters, I had a PhD, a postdoc that I did in the Azores. And still after all that, I still had to take unpaid work to be able to gain the experience that I want. And
this is the reality, isn't it?
This is the reality, absolutely. And I did that for 2 years. I worked in a bank, hated the work in the bank, but it would allow me to say, you know what, I'm going to go for 1 month in the Cayman Islands and go plant crops, Yeah. And that works. So after 2 years, I finally got my first job in the Caribbean as a faculty member in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Fantastic. Not quite a nice little,
Yeah,
quite a nice job to
nice
land.
job.
But I genuinely, I really like the fact that you're saying that doing something that you don't really want to do. Sometimes that's not in marine biology. Sometimes it might be in an area of marine biology that you're not really that keen on. Just get in there sometimes, isn't it? Find whatever way you can do to get in, because it, you know, networking and finding out and having that practical experience. So it's, you know, and it's hard with money. You have, like you say, not everyone can afford to go and do 6 months volunteering and things, but like you say, find a job which is flexible, find a job where you can make that work. I think that's fantastic.
And you know, I think that today it's even easier. You could find a remote job, you know, that you don't like, but that would allow you to travel and to pay the bills, because we have to be realistic too, right? Everybody has to eat, and everybody has to, you know, have a roof on their heads. And so I think there are options today.
I think that, and I can understand how frustrating it must be, both for you and others who have studied hard and got all those qualifications, and see perhaps other people with even fewer qualifications walking into well-paid graduate training jobs and things like that, and then thinking, well, I've still got unpaid work to do. But I mean, we could argue the pros and cons of all of that, but the fact is that's kind of the way it is right now, isn't it? And to then land the job of your dreams, you have to do stuff like that.
There's one thing I want to say is that we shouldn't associate working in marine biology as being not well paid. I think there is a dogma that if you do something that you really love, like working in marine biology, you shouldn't ask for a lot of money. That doesn't make any sense, right? That doesn't make
well trained.
It's not true, right? So it might be true in the beginning when you gain your skills, and you know, I've done it so many times, and to this day, I mean, last week I was in the Turks and Caicos Island again, and I volunteer my time just because I enjoy volunteering my time. But I have well-paying job on the side too. So we shouldn't let the industry dictate, you know, or force students to take jobs saying, oh, this is a great job, you shouldn't want any money. That's not true.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point to make. I think absolutely
you should be able to work in marine biology and make a decent living and make a good living.
Absolutely. Otherwise, where's the future in it as well?
Exactly.
You know, absolutely. I think that's great. So kind of where are you next? That you ended up in getting your first faculty job, and is that a kind of straight line to where you are now, or did you have
no, not really. So I was already working as a faculty back in Europe, and then I took this other faculty job in the Caribbean. Then after about 10 years working in academia, I got tired of it. And I think everybody is different, you know, some people like to do the same thing over and over again, but for me, I needed more diversity in my work. You know, I feel that teaching the same course, you know, years in and years out, I lost my enthusiasm to teach. So I decided to become a consultant. And I absolutely love it, just because as a consultant, I can see directly the impact of my work, you know, on every single project, right? If you're called because there is an erosion problem, let's say, well, you come in and you plant an artificial reef, or, you know, breakwater, and then you go plant corals, and boom, you can see the impact of your work, you know, or you have I don't know, nursery problem, and then you get called to plant mangroves, and then you can plant mangroves, and then pretty much the next week you can see all those little baby fish in the mangroves. So I absolutely love being
slightly obsessed with mangroves. They're so awesome.
Pretty cool. I love being able to see the impact of my work directly. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, fundamental basic research is not important. It is. Otherwise we wouldn't have applied science, right? But it's just not for me. And I think that's the beauty of the world. Everybody is a little bit different. Exactly. Yeah. So I really enjoy being able to travel the world and being paid to go diving in amazing places and save the reefs.
I think it's really great that people can watch this and say, you know, there's a journey I could take. You know, it wasn't easy. You've worked hard, but you know, there is, you know, your job is pretty much the dream of many marine biology graduates to do
too.
that. Yeah, absolutely. It's great. It can happen. Fantastic.
It can happen. Yeah.
So nowadays, what's a typical day? Or maybe I'm imagining some days are different than others, but you know, give us an idea of some of the things that you get up to in your day-to-day life.
So you know what I really enjoy in my work as a consultant is that I have both sides of the work. So I have days where I'm in the field and I'm in the mangrove muck and I'm getting bit by mosquitoes and cut by roots and everything, you know, I'm in the trenches. And then there are days where I'm just behind the computer and, you know, writing reports, doing statistical analysis. And I love that balance. You know, I think I would be tired to be in the field all the time, and I would be annoyed to be behind my computer all the time, right? So I really love to have that balance. And so you have, you know, a period of time where you have more field work and then other time where you have more computer work. But all in all, you know, it's about 50-50, and that's the way I like it.
Excellent. And I'm imagining in your work, you know, being able to write well, being able to persuade, being able to use promote, you know, and promote what you do and everything else is also perhaps not something you didn't see as being important when you were doing your undergrad or whatever, or your master's even. You know, those skills, that those kind of other skills that fit alongside the diving and the field work are enormously important, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I think we're well groomed, you know, as an undergrad and grad student into the writing skills that we need to acquire, but it's more geared towards peer reviewed papers, you know, and not really social media things, you know, because nowadays you need to have a social media presence, right? And this is actually how we got connected, right? Exactly. We found each other on LinkedIn. And I think it is also important because there is so much happening, you know, around LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and all the other ones, you know, that's how you can connect people and show why you're doing what you're doing and why it's important to you. Because I think that when you are able to express why it's important to you, you are able to connect, you know, heart to heart with someone else. And it's only when you have that heart to heart connection that then the change will happen, and that other person will be willing to change their behavior to protect the environment. Because at the end of the day, we only protect what we love, you know.
That's our motto. I know we didn't make it. It's not original, but that's absolutely what we believe here at WiseOceans. So are there any skills perhaps that you never thought you might need, some weird kind of like things that you do now that you kind of wish maybe you'd learned earlier, or did they just come along as you needed them?
So many skills. I'm learning all the time. There's still so many skills that I need to learn, and I love learning, which is a good thing, right? But the skills that we don't often think about, it's, for example, programming skills, like our language. You know, this is so important. GIS, statistical analysis, writing, like you were mentioning. Languages, if you want to travel, languages, you know.
No, language is so important.
And you know, the thing is that it will be impossible to acquire all the skills that you will need along your journey. What is important is to make sure that you have a unique combination of skills that nobody else has, right? That makes you very unique for someone who would like to work with you, right? For your potential employer. If you know,
can you fix the boat engine?
Exactly. What do you know? Like, you know, but just one set of skills won't be enough. No. You really have to go into like crossing different opportunities. And do you speak different languages? Do you know mechanics? Do you know GIS? You know, and what are the things that nobody else is doing? And how do you combine them to make you that unique, you know, offering, that unique person that you are anyways, you know, but trying to promote that combination that could be useful for someone who wants to work with you.
It's interesting. I once went through all of our interviews on WiseOceans, the text ones that we'd done. And I did some statistics on the number of times statistics came up as thing. And I now can't remember exactly, but it was way more than half of people we interviewed when it's sort of the question, you know, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger, kind of thing. Was I wish I'd paid more attention in statistics. And it comes up again and again and again. It's become a running joke now that you know,
it's key. It's key. You cannot do science without it, right?
Yeah. But it seems to be something that a lot of people try and avoid. Not a lot, but you know, some anyway. It comes up quite a lot.
It's scary at the beginning, right? But the more like everything,
do it, yeah,
like everything, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Exactly. So as we said, we were talking that it can be a little bit daunting when you're kind of moving out of academia into the real world. Do you think there's one specific kind of a piece of advice that you'd really like to share with anybody watching? Just before that, Debbie's just said, "Oh no, I'm trying hard to get my head around statistics." Keep going, Debbie. You can do it.
It's important. I don't know. I think it's like stay motivated. It's hard. It's hard at the beginning. It's hard, especially when you don't have the experience, when you don't have the skill sets. It's just like it's difficult, you know. But if you love it, keep your eyes on the prize and say, like, you know what? If I keep at it, if I'm consistently putting in good work, increasing my skills, you know. And you can also
there's no reason for it not to work out, really, is
exactly
there? It might not work out in the way you thought it was going to, but it will work out.
And you know, to be honest, I've met a lot of marine biologists who are not dealing with marine biology anymore, right? They say, you know what, I tried, it didn't work, and now I'm working, I don't know, in the bank, or I don't know, in the library, or whatever it is, right? But I think you can do something else on the side, but don't lose contact with marine biology, right? Continue to, it could be writing articles on LinkedIn, or write a blog, make videos on YouTube. There's so many things that
communicate
you
your
can do
passion
to make sure that you stay connected to marine biology, you know, and it will pay off. It might take a few years, you know, but it will pay off in the end.
Great. Lucy has made a comment. Any statistics has taken as any suggestions on statistic courses that you can do if you are already finished with a degree?
Well, there are a gazillion online.
Yeah, we've had some advertised. I don't know that they are at the moment. Certainly when in lockdown and there was a lot of online, we had some online courses advertised on our jobs page. But yeah, there's definitely online ones for like R and things like that, aren't there?
R would be the main one. Yeah.
Half my Facebook page are people posing R questions.
Yeah,
like, I've got this issue, I need to do this, and then all the R geeks get together and
but it shows you that there is a need, right?
Absolutely.
If you have so many people struggling with R, if you become an R queen or king, can you imagine how easy it will be for you to get a job?
Yeah, exactly.
That, you know,
exactly.
And I promise you, it might be not exciting in the beginning, but if you start to get really good at it, and you see that you are helping people, then you start to love it.
Exactly.
So spend
the power of the data.
2 years to become, you know, the best R person out there, and boom. Done.
Absolutely. So what's happening right now then with you, Catherine? What's you mentioned to me earlier about a book. This sounds interesting. Would you like to tell people about that?
I'm finishing a book called How It Doesn't End: Empowering Solution for Climate Change.
Love that title.
Basically, it's following my emotional journey as a marine biologist, because like we were mentioning in the beginning, I mean, at the start of my career, there was so much doom and gloom, you know, and when you're a young scientist, and the only thing that you hear, like, I would always remember the very first coral reef conference I would go to, every single talk was about something negative about the ocean, you know. I was like, just came out of school. What's happening? Like, I'm never gonna work in this field in 5 years. Everything gonna die. So it's very depressing. And if you only listen to that channel, I got depressed, because it was very difficult to see that the thing that I loved the most was completely destroyed. And it seemed that nobody cared about it, like 20 years ago, climate change, nobody talked about climate change 20 years ago, right? But the scientists did. So it's like, ooh. So the book really follows, what I felt and how I was able to overcome that and make a conscious decision to look for solutions and not only at the problems, and the routine and the rituals that I have embedded in my life to make sure that I keep up with this, good spirit, because it's very easy to slip back, you just open the news and there it is, right? But there are things that you can do, like surrounding yourself with people who are positive, like WiseOceans, who are looking for solutions and not problem. And for me, what made the change, this opportunity to shift from doom and gloom to looking at solutions was actually when I worked in Borneo with millennials. So I was teaching for a student in Cambridge, and those kids were just so positive and optimistic, and they wanted to save the world. It was like, oh wow, yeah, there's still people like that out there. Fantastic, yeah, exactly. And then they forced me to find solutions.
Yeah.
And since then I've been, I took the habit to try to find solutions and the good thing. And you don't want to be lying to yourself, right? You want to be honest. But you also have to recognize that solutions exist. And today we can solve all the problems we have. It's not a technological problem we have. It's a political will problem. And this is where, individuals have a lot of strengths to make sure that we are doing what needs to be done. We're almost out of time. So read my book if you want to know how you can do it.
I was going to say, could you give our viewers a couple of solutions and positive stories that have that have happened to you, or things that you've been involved in?
So the first thing that you can do, the easiest thing that you can do, is talk about it. Mm-hmm. So there is the Yale Communication Center every 6 months coming out with very precise studies who shows the percentage of Americans who believe that climate change is happening, or believe that climate change is human induced. So we do actually see that there is a change in a positive evolution in all those numbers. But what we don't see changing is the amount of time that people are actually talking about climate change. And the most valuable source of information for an individual is someone a friend, a family member.
Who can you persuade?
Right? Exactly. And you don't want to persuade them. So you want to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
So the trick is to try to find a common value. Do they have kids? Do you have kids? Do they have, do they have a dog? Do they have pets? What is it that they are into that you can connect with? And then you explain them how climate change will impact the thing that they love. Do they love to drink coffee? Well, because of climate change, the price of coffee is going to increase by 30% every year. Do they have pets? Well, the number of ticks that you have in your region and all the the disease they're carrying will increase because of climate change. So you start by connecting with the common value that you have, and you really should not press your views and values onto somebody else, right? Because if you do that,
it never works.
It never works. It never works. So try to understand where they're at, and try to connect with your heart and say, this is what it's important for me, and this is maybe also why it's important to you, because you have a dog, because you have kids, because this and this and that, and then from there, you build a connection and the relation. So you should not be aggressive. You should not be, like trying to force anything, but try to talk about it. Because if you start talking about it, then you raise the collective awareness.
Yeah.
And once that happens, then you can vote for the right politician that we put the right regulation in place, right? Because if we want to see the change that we need to see at the level that we need to see, individual actions like canceling your trip to Cancun, for your next vacation, will not get us there, right? Individual action is key to raise awareness, to connect, and to vote for the right person. But we missed that window of opportunity where it was all we needed to do. Today, we need to have the right regulations in place that will drastically change the CO2 emissions that we have.
We do. Well, as you say, we are nearly out of time. I have a couple of questions just to finish with. I think they're really hard, but in fact, I happen to know you've got a firm decision here. So my question is, what is your favorite marine creature and why?
Easy. Great white sharks.
It is, yeah.
Why? Because they're the most magnificent creature in the ocean, period.
Have you got to swim with them?
Yes, I did.
So jealous. And well, maybe this is linked. What's your most unforgettable moment in the sea?
I think that would be taking that 7-year-old for his first dive. And feeling that emotion. That was amazing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much to Catherine. Thank you for people for their questions, for watching. And if you're watching this on catch up, put your questions in. We'll try and our best to get back to them as well. Connect with Catherine on LinkedIn and Facebook. Do all of those things. Get your statistics going. Be Positive, by Catherine's book when it comes. Do we know when it's coming out?
This summer.
Keep an eye out. Well, we'll let us know and we'll promote it as well. So
you can connect with me on Twitter too. It's at Twitter. One Dr. Cath, TATH.
Okay, great, fantastic. So thank you so much. We will be doing more, getting back into doing more of our live interviews. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out on wiseoceans.com on our job board. Sign up for our newsletter if you haven't done already, and keep positive, everybody. Thank you so much to Catherine, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye, everybody.